On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. Virginia Woolf, one of the most influential literary figures of the 20th century, died by suicide on March 28, 1941, at the age of 59. Suffering from recurrent bouts of severe depression, she filled her pockets with stones and walked into the River Ouse near her home in Sussex, England. Her body was discovered weeks later. Her death was deeply personal, yet emblematic of broader struggles, both her own lifelong battle with mental illness and the burdens of creative genius in a rapidly changing world. Woolf's death occurred against the backdrop of World War II, a time of profound uncertainty and destruction. The war had already impacted her deeply. She feared the bombing of London, the potential invasion of England, and the cultural loss that war brings. Her suicide note, written to her husband Leonard Woolf, reveals a tragic clarity. She felt she was slipping into another debilitating episode of mental illness and did not believe she could recover. The immediate impact of her death was felt deeply in literary and intellectual circles. Woolf had been a pioneering voice in modernist literature, known for works such as Mrs. Dalloway, To the Lighthouse, and A Room of One's Own. Her passing left a void in the literary world, and yet, in many ways, her legacy only grew after her death. The feminist movement of the late 20th century rediscovered her work, particularly her essays on women's rights and the importance of financial and intellectual independence for female writers. Her novel Orlando, which explored gender fluidity, became even more relevant in contemporary discussions on identity. Her suicide also cast a long shadow over interpretations of her work, with many critics and readers viewing her novels through the lens of her struggles with mental illness. This, however, does not diminish her brilliance. Rather, it adds complexity to her legacy. Woolf's writing continues to be studied, adapted, and honored. She is immortalized in statues, literature, and film, and her influence on stream of consciousness, writing, and feminist thought remains profound. Virginia Woolf's death serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of genius and the price often paid by those who push the boundaries of art and thought. It also underscores the importance of mental health awareness, an issue still relevant today. Through her words, Woolf continues to inspire generations, proving that even in loss, a voice can endure. Richard Griffiths, the beloved English actor best known for his roles in Withnail and I, and as the overbearing Uncle Vernon Dursley in the Harry Potter film series, passed away on March 28, 2013 at the age of 65. His death was the result of complications following heart surgery, marking a tragic yet natural end to the life of a man who had left an indelible mark on both stage and screen. Griffiths' passing reflected the fragility of life even for those who bring joy and entertainment to millions. As a figure who thrived in an era of both traditional theater and modern blockbuster cinema, his death underscored the ongoing transition between different forms of acting and storytelling. He was a bridge between classical Shakespearean theater and the world of franchise filmmaking, demonstrating the endurance of powerful, character-driven performances in an industry increasingly reliant on spectacle. The immediate consequences of his passing were felt deeply in the entertainment world. Many actors and colleagues paid tribute, including Daniel Radcliffe, who credited Griffiths as a mentor and guiding influence during his early years on the Harry Potter films. Griffiths had been a highly respected figure in British acting, with a career spanning decades and genres, from comedic roles to deeply emotional performances. His loss was not just that of a single performer, but of a theatrical institution. His booming voice, expressive face, and remarkable versatility had left an impact that was difficult to replace. Though Griffiths had long been a respected figure in British theatre and television, his death solidified his status as a cherished character actor. The Harry Potter franchise, which had already cemented its place in pop culture history, became an even more poignant artifact with the loss of yet another one of its beloved cast members. For many, his portrayal of Uncle Vernon remains iconic, bringing both humor and menace to a character that embodied the rigidity of the non-magical world against the wonder of magic. His death serves as a reminder of the transient nature of life and the enduring power of performance. While actors may pass on, their work remains immortalized in film, television, and the memories of those they have entertained. Griffiths continues to be remembered through reruns of his films, archival recordings of his stage performances, and tributes from those he inspired. His legacy is one of depth, humor, and theatrical excellence, an example of how art can outlive the artist, ensuring that their presence is never truly gone. Christine Kaufmann, the German-Austrian actress and beauty icon, passed away on March 28, 2017, at the age of 72 due to leukemia. Her death was a quiet but significant moment in European cinema, marking the end of a career that had spanned decades and bridged different cultural and artistic movements. Kaufmann's passing reflected the challenges of aging in an industry that often prioritizes youth and reinvention. Once celebrated as Germany's answer to Brigitte Bardot, she had to navigate the difficulties of sustaining a career that began when she was a child. Her early success in films such as Town Without Pity, in which she starred alongside Kirk Douglas, established her as a major European star. However, as with many actresses whose fame peaked in youth, she had to redefine herself over time, ultimately carving out a second career as an author and businesswoman in the beauty industry. The immediate consequences of her death were felt most deeply in Germany and Austria, where she remained a beloved cultural figure. Though she had spent time in Hollywood, particularly during her marriage to American actor Tony Curtis, she was ultimately a European artist who embraced her roots. Her passing served as a moment for reflection on the golden age of post-war German cinema and the transition of European film stars from international icons to more regional figures as Hollywood dominance grew. Kaufmann's legacy was further amplified by the enduring fascination with her relationship with Curtis, which was one of Hollywood's glamorous, yet ultimately ill-fated unions. While her acting career was impressive in its own right, it was often overshadowed in the public imagination by her connection to the American film industry and her ability to move between two worlds, old Hollywood and European art house cinema. In many ways, her death solidified her status as one of the last links to an era when European actresses could captivate both sides of the Atlantic. Her passing also raises broader questions about how we remember and honor figures who may not have remained in the mainstream spotlight but left an undeniable mark on their field. Kaufmann is immortalized through her films, her books on beauty and self-care, and the nostalgic admiration for an era when cinema was both elegant and international. In remembering her, we reflect on the transient nature of fame, the resilience of reinvention, and the lasting power of cinematic artistry. James Noble, the American actor best known for his role as the kind-hearted Governor Eugene Gatling on the sitcom Benson, passed away on March 28, 2016 at the age of 94. His death was attributed to complications from a stroke, marking the end of a long life and career that spanned theater, television, and film. Noble's passing was a quiet moment in Hollywood history, yet it reflected the challenges faced by actors of his generation, those who built their careers in an era when television was transitioning from the golden age of live broadcasts to the fast-paced, commercially driven industry it became by the late 20th century. His ability to adapt and sustain a career across different formats demonstrated resilience in an industry where longevity is rare. Though he was best remembered for Benson, his work in Broadway productions and soap operas such as the World Turns showed the range of an actor who moved seamlessly between different styles and genres. The immediate consequences of Noble's death were largely felt by fans of classic television and his colleagues in the entertainment industry. While he was never a megastar, he was beloved for his warm presence on screen, particularly in a show like Benson, which tackled social and political themes with humor. His portrayal of Governor Gatling, a well-meaning but sometimes clueless politician, resonated in an era when sitcoms often reflected the political landscape in a lighthearted way. In some ways, his character offered a contrast to the increasing cynicism about politics in the 1980s, portraying a leader who, despite his shortcomings, was fundamentally good-natured and open-hearted. His passing serves as a reminder of how television shapes cultural memory. While many actors struggled to remain relevant beyond their most iconic roles, Noble's work lives on through reruns, streaming services, and nostalgic discussions about classic sitcoms. His legacy is a testament to the enduring appeal of television as a medium that preserves performances and allows audiences to rediscover past eras of entertainment. In reflecting on Noble's death, we see how actors can achieve a form of immortality through their work. Even when they step away from the spotlight, their portrayals continue to influence audiences, shaping perceptions of history, politics, and humor. His career highlights the ways in which television, often dismissed as ephemeral, can create lasting cultural touchstones, keeping figures like Noble alive in collective memory long after their passing. Jim Thorpe, often hailed as one of the greatest athletes of all time, passed away on March 28, 1953, at the age of 65. His death was the result of a heart attack, marking the end of a life that had been filled with both triumph and hardship. Though he was a celebrated Olympian, professional football and baseball player, and a symbol of Native American excellence, Thorpe spent much of his later life struggling financially and battling health issues. Thorpe's passing reflected the larger societal struggles faced by Native Americans in the early to mid-20th century. Despite his unparalleled achievements, winning gold medals in the decathlon and pentathlon at the 1912 Olympics, playing professional sports across multiple leagues, and even acting in Hollywood, he was often denied the recognition and stability he deserved. The U.S. government had stripped him of his Olympic titles due to a technicality about amateur status, and although the medals were posthumously reinstated decades later, the injustice had already been done. After his athletic career ended, Thorpe struggled to find steady work, a harsh contrast to the hero's welcome he had once received. His death in near poverty was a stark reminder of how even the most extraordinary talents could be discarded by a society that failed to properly honor them. The immediate consequences of Thorpe's death were not as dramatic as those of political or cultural figures, but they were deeply felt within the sports world and Native American communities. His legacy as a trailblazer and role model was further cemented, even as the broader society had long overlooked his struggles. Over time, efforts to correct past wrongs gained momentum, culminating in the 1983 reinstatement of his Olympic gold medals and growing recognition of his impact on sports history. Thorpe's passing also raises larger questions about how we remember our heroes. His life, filled with both immense success and systemic mistreatment, reflects the complicated ways society treats its icons, celebrating them in moments of victory, but often neglecting them in times of need. The way Thorpe has been immortalized since his death speaks volumes about the evolving understanding of his contributions. Statues, documentaries, books, and even the naming of the town of Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, serve as testaments to his enduring influence. In reflecting on his life and death, Thorpe's story is one of perseverance, injustice, and posthumous redemption. His struggles mirrored broader societal inequities, but his legacy continues to inspire generations, reminding us that true greatness often comes with hardships that only history fully acknowledges. Ivan IV Vasilyevich, more infamously known as Ivan the Terrible, died on March 28, 1584 in Moscow. His death, believed to have been caused by a stroke, marked the end of a reign defined by both brutal expansion and internal terror. In his later years, Ivan suffered from severe health problems, including joint pain and possible syphilis, which may have contributed to his increasingly erratic behavior. His death came at a precarious moment for Russia, as he left behind a fragile succession and a nation scarred by decades of purges, war, and autocratic rule. The circumstances of Ivan's death reflected the anxieties of his time. Russia was still emerging as a centralized state, and Ivan's ruthless methods, such as the creation of the Oprichnina, a secret police force used to eliminate perceived enemies, had instilled fear among the nobility and commoners alike. His paranoia had led him to kill his own son, Ivan Ivanovich, in a fit of rage in 1581, leaving the succession in the hands of his weaker, intellectually disabled son, Fyodor I. This tragic turn of events meant that, while Ivan's death may have provided temporary relief from his tyranny, it also plunged Russia into a period of instability known as the Time of Troubles. The immediate consequences of Ivan's passing were far-reaching. With Fyodor on the throne but incapable of effective rule, power fell to Boris Godunov, a close advisor of Ivan. This shift in leadership set off a chain reaction of political intrigue, civil war, and foreign invasions that would nearly collapse the Russian state. Ivan's death did not soften his legacy, but rather solidified his reputation as both a visionary and a tyrant, a ruler who had expanded Russian borders, but at an immense human cost. In the centuries since, Ivan the Terrible has been immortalized in Russian history and culture through literature, film, and art. Some depictions emphasize his cruelty, while others cast him as a necessary figure in Russia's development. Sergei Eisenstein's 1940s film Ivan the Terrible portrayed him as a complex Machiavellian leader, reflecting Stalinist-era parallels. His story continues to fuel debates about the price of absolute power and the fine line between strong leadership and tyranny. Ultimately, Ivan's death, like his life, serves as a reminder of the darker side of human ambition. His legacy forces us to confront the enduring question of whether greatness can ever justify cruelty and what rulers leave behind when they rule through fear rather than trust. Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States and Supreme Commander of Allied forces in Europe during World War II, passed away on March 28, 1969, at the age of 78. His death resulted from congestive heart failure, following years of declining health marked by multiple heart attacks. The passing of such a towering figure in American history marked the end of an era, one defined by the triumphs of war, the anxieties of the Cold War, and the post-war prosperity of the United States. Eisenhower's final years were spent mostly at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, where he battled ongoing heart problems. As a leader, his health struggles mirrored broader concerns of the post-war generation, a time when heart disease was emerging as a major public health crisis in the United States. Despite his illnesses, Eisenhower remained an admired statesman, often consulted on national matters even after leaving office in 1961. His death came at a moment when America was deep in the turmoil of the Vietnam War, a conflict that sharply contrasted with the leadership he had provided during his presidency when he prioritized diplomacy and military restraint. The immediate consequences of Eisenhower's death were marked by national mourning and reflection. His leadership had guided the United States through pivotal moments in history, from the D-Day landings in World War II to the establishment of the Interstate Highway System, NASA, and the doctrine of nuclear deterrence. His funeral was attended by world leaders and dignitaries, underscoring his global influence. Though he had been out of office for nearly a decade, his passing reminded Americans of a different kind of leadership, one that emphasized unity, caution, and pragmatism during a time of increasing domestic and international strife. Eisenhower's legacy has been cemented in American memory through countless means. His memoirs, military strategies, and presidential policies continue to be studied, while monuments, institutions, and even an aircraft carrier bear his name. His warnings about the military-industrial complex in his farewell address remain eerily relevant as debates over defense spending and government influence persist. Ultimately, Eisenhower's death reinforced the idea that true leadership is not just about war and victory, but also about stability and foresight. His legacy is a testament to the enduring impact of thoughtful governance, reminding future generations that the greatest leaders are often those who prepare their nations for peace as much as for war. Virginia Gilmore, an American actress known for her work in both Hollywood and Broadway, passed away on March 28, 1986, at the age of 66. Her death was the result of emphysema, a disease often linked to smoking, which was a common habit among actors of her generation. Her passing reflected not only the personal toll of lifestyle choices, but also the broader health challenges of the mid-20th century, when the dangers of smoking were not as widely acknowledged as they are today. Gilmore rose to fame in the 1940s, a time when Hollywood's golden age was at its peak. She starred in films such as Western Union and Swamp Water, and later transitioned to television, where she continued to work while also raising a family with her husband, the well-known actor Yul Brynner. Despite her early success, her career did not sustain the same momentum as some of her contemporaries, a fate not uncommon for women in Hollywood at the time. Her later years were largely spent away from the limelight, yet she remained a respected figure in the entertainment industry. The immediate consequences of Gilmore's passing were quiet in comparison to the deaths of Hollywood's biggest icons, as she had long since stepped out of the public eye. However, her contributions to film and television were still remembered, particularly by classic movie enthusiasts and scholars of Hollywood history. Her death also highlighted the broader issue of health concerns related to smoking, which had been a defining characteristic of Hollywood's glamorous but often unhealthy lifestyle. Gilmore's legacy is tied not only to her own career but also to her connection with Brynner, whose own towering presence in Hollywood often overshadowed her achievements. Still, her work in classic films ensures that she is remembered by fans of early American cinema. Additionally, her career trajectory serves as a reflection of the struggles faced by actresses of her time, who often found fewer opportunities as they aged. In many ways, Virginia Gilmore's death and life remind us of the fleeting nature of fame and the way Hollywood history is preserved. While she may not have reached the legendary status of some of her contemporaries, her work continues to be appreciated through film preservation and the ongoing interest in Hollywood's golden age. Her passing serves as a reminder of how stars from the past continue to shape the way we understand and commemorate the entertainment industry. June Havoc, a multi-talented actress, writer, and director, passed away on March 28, 2010, at the age of 97. Her death was due to natural causes, marking the end of a long and storied life that spanned nearly a century. Havoc's passing reflected the changing landscape of American entertainment, as she had been part of a generation that transitioned from vaudeville to Broadway and Hollywood, witnessing firsthand the evolution of the industry. Born in 1912, Havoc was a child performer who grew up under the strict and often exploitative guidance of her mother, immortalized in popular culture through Gypsy, the musical based on the memoirs of her sister, Gypsy Rose Lee. While Gypsy Rose Lee became famous as a burlesque star, Havoc pursued a career in legitimate theater and film. Her experiences as a child performer during the Great Depression were grueling, and she later recounted the hardships of that era in her autobiographies. At the time of her passing, Havoc was one of the last surviving performers from vaudeville's golden age. Her death signified the fading of an entertainment era that had shaped American popular culture in the early 20th century. While she had long been out of the public eye, her contributions to theater and film continued to be appreciated by classic film historians and Broadway enthusiasts. Havoc's legacy is twofold. She was both a performer and a survivor of the harsh realities of early show business. Unlike many of her contemporaries who struggled with financial instability later in life, she found success as a playwright and director, ensuring her continued relevance in the industry. The immediate consequences of her death were subtle, as she had not been active in Hollywood for some time, but her passing renewed interest in her remarkable life story, particularly in the context of Gypsy and its enduring popularity. Her story remains a powerful commentary on the price of fame and the resilience required to navigate the entertainment industry. Havoc is immortalized through her autobiographical works, her performances in classic films and stage productions, and her connection to Gypsy, which continues to introduce new generations to her family's legacy. Her life and death remind us of the ways in which Hollywood and Broadway legends are preserved, through storytelling, film, and theatrical adaptations that keep their memories alive long after their final curtain call. Helene Reynolds, an actress known for her work in Hollywood during the 1940s, passed away on March 28, 1990, at the age of 74. Her death was due to natural causes, marking the quiet end of a life that had once intersected with the golden era of cinema. Though her name may not be as well known as some of her contemporaries, her story reflects the fleeting nature of Hollywood stardom and the shifting role of women in the entertainment industry. Born in 1916, Reynolds initially pursued acting under the stage name Helene Whitney. She appeared in a series of films during the late 1930s and 1940s. But like many actresses of her time, she struggled to secure major leading roles. Her career coincided with an era in which Hollywood often cast women in glamorous but secondary parts, limiting their long-term professional prospects. The studio system of the time frequently reshaped or discarded actresses based on shifting industry trends, and Reynolds' career ultimately faded as newer stars emerged. By the time of her passing in 1990, the entertainment industry had undergone significant transformations. The rigid studio system that had once dictated an actor's career was long gone, and women had begun to gain more agency in their professional trajectories. However, the challenges Reynolds faced, such as typecasting and the brevity of Hollywood fame, remained relevant, highlighting the ongoing struggles for longevity and recognition in an industry that often prioritizes youth and marketability. Reynolds' death did not generate widespread media coverage, as she had been largely absent from the public eye for decades. Unlike screen legends whose deaths send shockwaves through popular culture, hers was more of a quiet epilogue to a career that, while brief, represented the experience of many performers whose names are now footnotes in Hollywood history. However, her legacy, like those of many early Hollywood actors, remains preserved in the films she contributed to, serving as a reminder of the transitory nature of fame. Her passing prompts reflection on the way history remembers certain figures over others. While superstars of the Golden Age continue to be immortalized in retrospectives and biographies, countless actors like Reynolds gradually fade into obscurity. Yet they remain an integral part of Hollywood's legacy, their work forming the foundation upon which future generations build. In this way, figures like Helene Reynolds endure, not necessarily through grand commemorations, but through the lasting presence of their performances in the ever-expanding archives of cinema. Peter Ustinov, the celebrated British actor, writer, and director, passed away on March 28, 2004, at the age of 82. His death was due to natural causes, as he succumbed to heart failure. Ustinov's passing marked the end of a remarkable career that spanned decades, leaving behind a legacy of wit, charm, and depth that defined his diverse body of work. Known for his portrayals of complex characters and his deft ability to balance humor with serious themes, Ustinov had become an iconic figure in both cinema and theater. Ustinov's death, occurring in the early 21st century, did not spark the kind of political or social upheaval seen in the deaths of figures like Cleopatra or Joan of Arc. However, his passing still resonated deeply within the artistic community and the public consciousness. His influence on film, theater, and humanitarian efforts was immense. Ustinov's humanitarian work, which included serving as a goodwill ambassador for the United Nations, further endeared him to the global public, and his death was a reminder of the frailty of life, even for those who had lived full, purposeful lives. The immediate consequences of Ustinov's death included tributes from around the world, with fans and colleagues alike reflecting on his contributions to the arts. His passing also triggered a re-evaluation of his work, with many revisiting his films, books, and stage performances. Ustinov's rich character portrayals and his ability to make complex, sometimes darker themes accessible to audiences ensured that his legacy would continue to endure. In particular, his roles in Agatha Christie adaptations and his work as a voice actor in animated films kept his presence alive in popular culture. His death did not change the course of history in a political sense, but it did shift the trajectory of the arts, as it marked the loss of a unique voice that had helped shape global theater and film. Ustinov's passing is a reminder of how art and culture can immortalize figures, even long after their physical deaths. Through literature, film, and public commemoration, we ensure that their influence persists, transcending time and place, and enriching the ongoing human conversation about mortality, legacy, and the profound impact of individuals on society.